All right, so today we're going to be performing a pre-op inspection on this Kubota tractor here and on this Ford 2000 right over here as well. The purpose of a pre-op inspection is to make sure that the tractor is ready to go, that all the components on the tractor, or at least all the basic components on the tractor in order for it to function properly for any agricultural uses, is that it's good to go. And so this is a very basic steps on how to perform a visual and slightly physical pre-op inspection check, and it's a very employable skill to know how to do before you operate any vehicle. The first thing you got to do is, the most basic thing is you're gonna kick the tires to make sure that it's got proper pressure or tire levels on these tires. So we simply just go ahead and kick them, and if we see anything abnormal with the tires and whatnot, any bulges, then that's how you know that they probably cannot be operated. So we're gonna kick every tire. This tire over here looks good to go. This tire over here is also good to go. This tractor hasn't been operated in quite a while. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go ahead and go look at our radiator and our fuel levels. So the radiator is always usually located in the front of the tractor. Simply, we want to make sure as well is that you want to, every time you do a pre-op inspection, you gotta do it before the tractor is operated. Because if you were to run the tractor for a little bit of time, if you pop open the radiator cap, because of all the heat that is created from the tractor's engine, that radiator fluid could come popping out. And you can look inside. If you see inside there, you can visibly see there's radiator fluid. The only reason why there would be no radiator fluid after you've already had some in there is if the radiator had been pierced and you had some sort of radiator leak. If we go over here to our fuel cap, this is a diesel vehicle, and you can know so because it tells you it's diesel. The other way you know it's a diesel vehicle is that if it doesn't have spark plugs. And we look inside, I know it's very hard to catch with the camera, but there is diesel inside of there. We're gonna come along on this side over here, so that way we could go ahead and pop open the side of this tractor. And just for tractor identification, this right here is our muffler. We have our alternator right over here on the tractor. That thing that is what's keeping the battery charged. What we're gonna look for is, the main things that we're looking for is our air filter and our battery. What we want to look for in our battery is that, especially this tractor, which hasn't been operated for quite a long time, the batteries can die naturally from the cold and whatnot. So the other thing too is that we got to check for corrosion. Corrosion would look anything like these blue and white particles and residue that's all over the terminals, the positive and negative terminals on our batteries. So we look for those on here, and you can see, if you kind of zoom in a little bit, that there is no corrosion here. So if there was corrosion, that would prevent any electrical charge from going into our engine and starting up our tractor. So that battery looks like it's good to go. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our air filter. With the air filters, actually quite easy to remove and reinstall. But with air filters, they're pretty important. They filter out any foreign material that might go into your engine. One of the components that an engine needs in order to work is oxygen. So it needs to intake air. And so if there's any particles that get into the engine, then it can be pretty bad. We look inside of our air filter. These things can get clogged up pretty easily. You can see as I tap it, there's a lot of dust that comes out. Because for tractors, right? For tractors, we use it a lot for agricultural usage, so in many fields and whatnot. So these things can get clogged up pretty easily. You want to make sure that these guys, at least that the combs on there, are nice and clean. If you see that it's too clogged up, then in that case, that's when you would want to replace one of these things. Or you could go ahead and just take an air compressor and just blow that thing out, and then it would still be good to go. This air filter is pretty fine to me. According to my standards, it's not too clogged. As you saw that I did tap it against the tire, and you saw a lot of dust come out. But as you can see, if you ever have a chance or moment or situation in which you're starting up a tractor and it doesn't want to start up, in fact, you don't even hear it intaking any air in order to start up, that must mean that our air filter is probably clogged. So in that case, that's when you would want to go ahead and open up the air filter and then clean it out. So we want to make sure we're always making sure that that thing is there. Let me see if there's any. There's where the oil filter might be on the on this guy. not the oil filter, but what we're looking for is the dipstick. And the dipstick is where we're gonna be checking our oil levels. Look at that. It was just hidden by a bunch of spider webs. Oh. All right, so our dipstick is actually right over here. So what you wanna do here is usually you would take a clean oil rag. I don't have one right over here, but you can just wipe it right on yourself or anything like that too. But this is where you would check your oil levels on your for your oil. Here you can see the oil is pretty dark and whatnot. It's usually your oil is not as dark as this, but your dipstick will have an indicator on here that tells you whether it has adequate oil. That's the real thing that really does matter. The oil quality, that could be up to your determination whether you want to change your oil out, but this guy looks like the oil's still pretty good, but the dark consistency on this oil means that it could be time for this tractor to get an oil change. But generally what you would want to do is you would wipe this thing right off, usually with a clean rag. I just don't have one on me at the moment. And then we're gonna go ahead and dip this thing back in, and we're gonna wait just a tiny bit, and then we're gonna read the levels on this oil to make sure there's adequate oil inside of there. Usually there'll be a little indicator that tells you right over here that there's enough oil, and you can see it's way past that. So this thing has adequate oil for our tractor. That oil is important because it lubricates all our parts on our tractor. When it comes to the pistons and cylinders that we have in our engine, they need oil in order to run smoothly. We're gonna go ahead and put these parts back on, because the next step that we're gonna do is we're gonna start up this tractor. Now that we've done a pretty visual check on our tires, on our radiator, our fuel, our oil, and our air filter, so it should be ready to go. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna hop on this tractor and we're gonna test to see before we can operate it that it functions, that it's functioning successfully, meaning that the clutch is working, our brakes are working, and our transmission's working. So when we hop onto the tractor, we gotta always make sure that we're gonna be doing our 3-point contact system as we're hopping on. So I have 1 point of contact with my boot, one with my hand, another one with my other hand right over here, so that makes 3 as we hop on. As you can see, this tractor has a ROPS bar, so therefore, when you have a ROPS bar attached, in that case, you always want to make sure that you're wearing your seatbelt. It's our handy dandy seatbelt right over here. So if there was no ROPS bar, like in this tractor right over here, you see that tractor right there has no ROPS bar, you wouldn't wear a seatbelt when it comes to that one right there. All right, so for the tractor right over here, this pedal right here is our clutch. It's always gonna be on the left side of our tractor. Our brakes are gonna be on the right side of the tractor. And if you do take a look, if you want, you can come around on the other side. If you take a look, this tractor does have 2 brakes. All of them do. There's a pin right here. If I were to lift it up, it's pretty rusty because this thing has probably never been lifted ever. But if you lift that, this little latch right here, what it would do is then you can operate the brakes individually. So that way, if the front end of the tractor were to ever come above the ground, then you can control and steer the tractor still by stepping on the 2 brakes. But you can see if I step on only one of the brakes, it steps on both of them. When we start up our tractor, we want to make sure that we start up on neutral. So for the gears on this tractor right over here, when you want to put it first through fourth gear, that's this lever right over here. But some tractors, they're all different in transmissions. I'll be able to show you on our Ford tractor how it's different than this one. But in order to go forward, all you do is you step on the clutch, right, as you're changing gears, because if you don't do so, as that shaft is moving when the engine's on, you'll be grinding your gears if you do so. But in order to move forward, all you do is you put that lever forward. You want to put it in neutral. That means the tractor is not in gear. It's neither in forward or in reverse. You would put it right here, right down the middle. And if you want to go reverse, then the tractor would go backwards right over here. So right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to step on the clutch. We're going to turn on this tractor and let's hope that it works, because it's been a while since this guy has ran whatsoever. So let's go ahead and give it a try. And it starts up like a beaut. Good stuff. We're gonna let her warm up for a little bit, because it was probably a very cold start for this tractor. You always want to make sure you allow the tractor to warm up for a bit, because that allows the coolant, the radiator coolant fluids to flow through the engine, and all of our oils to flow through the engine completely. It'll do a complete cycle. If you start it up, just like any other car or vehicle, if you just start it up immediately, and you do a cold start, and then you just go ahead and put it in gear and take off, you're doing a lot of damage on your engine. So if you want to take real good care of your engine, you always want to make sure that you warm up your engine before you operate it. So we're going to give it just a tiny bit. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put this guy in gear. Just one hand and put it in a low gear. And now what we're going to test to see that this tractor can go in reverse, and we can step on the brakes and the brakes can work. And then we're going to go forward, and then the forward transmission works, and we can step on the brakes and the brakes can work. We're going to go and give it that try first. I'm going to go reverse. Release the clutch slowly. As you can see, step on the brakes. That's all you need to go. That thing, because the tractor's very cold, you can see it almost turned off on itself. But you can see it turned the brakes worked properly, and we went back. We went backwards. Now we're going to put it in forward. We're going to release the clutch slowly. The tractor moves forward, and we can hit the brakes. This tractor has passed our pre-operation inspection, all right? And that's all you need to do. We're gonna go ahead and put the tractor back in neutral, put the gear back in neutral as well. If I release the clutch, it shouldn't move. You gotta make sure it's in neutral. It should not move. So when I release the clutch and it's in neutral, the tractor should not move. Good stuff. So this tractor right here has passed our pre-op inspection. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that thing off. So this tractor is good to go. So before you operate any vehicle or any equipment that you're trying to do for a job, or for, like, let's say for your farm, or maybe you're operating your own personal vehicle, generally, if it's been a while, you want to make sure that you perform a pre-op inspection just like that. If we look over here at our Ford 2000, however, let's see an example of a tractor that may or may not pass the pre-op inspection. So this tractor as well hasn't been operated in quite a long time. As we take a look at the batteries, the terminal clamp on this guy is actually kind of loose, and you can tell because I can just simply lift it up. There is no corrosion if you look very carefully. There's no corrosion, so it seems to be fine. We check the oil levels on this guy, and you can see that the dipstick already immediately, you can see this is the indicator of how full it needs to be. Let's go ahead and wipe this thing off. Generally, of course, you would want to use a clean rag when you're doing so, but I just came unprepared today without a clean rag. We're gonna go ahead and check the oil levels. We're gonna stick the dipstick back in, wait a few moments. We're gonna pull this thing out. As you can see, that yes, the oil, of course, it looks like it could use an oil change, right? Because due to the dark consistency on this thing, but you can see that it does reach the minimum level of where we want it to be. So it does tend to pass that oil test in terms of having enough oil inside of our tractor. We're gonna go ahead and open up the top here. This is where we're gonna find the fuel and our radiator. So we'll check the fuel levels. So if we look inside of there, we should be able to see enough fuel. We open up our radiator cap, we should see some radiator fluid. And if you look inside there, there is fuel. This guy, we'll probably have the proper fuel in order to start up. We look inside of here, you can see the radiator fluid as well. And again, we make sure, people, that whenever we're performing a pre-op inspection, it's called a pre-op inspection for a reason. We want to do this before we operate the tractor, okay? Because if you were to do this afterwards, that dipstick would be hot, this radiator would be hot, and then you would probably be burning yourself as well too. One thing I noticed about this tractor is that it does not have an air filter. Sometimes you'll find old pieces of equipment that are missing specific components. So this tractor right here does not have an air filter. But one thing I did want to show you guys is you can see right over here, this is what the fuel filter looks on this guy. That would be the fuel filter right over here. And this right here is our oil filter. And sometimes not all tractors have a water separating filter either as well. The other thing, let's see, we want to make sure, of course, we got to kick every tire as we're going through. That tire seems to be fine. Let's check this tire right over here. That one seems to be okay. And that one seems to be fine as well. One thing I want to show you guys is not only that this tractor does not have a ROPS bar. This tractor does. But if you come around the back, you actually see that the PTO on this tractor does not have a guard. All right. Generally, because this is an older tractor. As you know, it doesn't have a PTO, doesn't have an air filter, doesn't have a water filter, doesn't have a PTO guard. And what you want to see on the PTOs is this guy right over here. This right here is what a PTO guard would look like. It's a metal plate that pretty much encompasses or overlaps on top of our PTO system. As you've seen, that the PTOs can be pretty dangerous, and so this right here would be an example of a tractor that's PTO is unguarded. So it's probably wouldn't be it would probably be unsafe to go ahead and cross by here if you had a PTO or an implement attached onto the PTO. What we're gonna do, I doubt this guy will work, but we're gonna go ahead and check to see if this tractor's good. 3 points of contact as we hop on. There is no seat belt on this tractor, but the gear shifter on this thing, if you want to close up, I can show you guys a little bit better. As you know, on our Kubota, we put it forward, it's in forward. If we put it back, that's in back. But and if you put it in the middle, it's in neutral. But for this this Ford tractor, most tractors, especially the models that are Fords, their gear shifters look exactly like this. So we step down on the clutch in order to shift our gears. But our first gear is going to be to the right and then up. Our second gear is straight down. Our fourth gear is straight up, and our third gear is to the right and down. And if you're in the middle, it would be just straight. So there are 4 main gears on this tractor, but you can also technically count it as 8 gears because there's also a low and a high gear. This is where you control your low and your high speeds. Our hand throttle's right here. I forgot to show you guys the hand throttle over there, but that's okay. Our hand throttle's right over here, so if this guy's all the way up, it would be, the throttle would be up on this guy. It doesn't have any gas pedals. Of course, the throttle on the tractor is it's a hand lever, so we're gonna put it all the way down. And if we want to keep this guy not in gear, meaning it's in neutral, it's neither in forward or reverse or any of the first and fourth gears, then we want to make sure we keep it in the middle. How you know it's in neutral? Generally, the gear shifter here would be completely wiggly or very loose. So if we put it in gear, for example, as you can see right here, yes, it is a tiny bit wiggly, but not as before. It would be much more loose than before. But then all those gears that I showed you, though, those gears would be to only and solely move the tractor forward. If you wanted to move this tractor backwards, then that would be to the left, then up. So there's only one gear when it comes for this tractor to be put in reverse. So instead of being able to be put into different gears, like first through fourth, and go forward and backwards like our Kubota, this Ford would only, in order to go to reverse, you can only go into one gear in reverse, while all the other gears would put you forward. Let me make sure, is the key in here? I must have taken the key with me.
No, it is in there.
Is it in there?
Yeah.
Oh, the key's in there? Perfect stuff. Ah, I see. All right, good stuff. So we're gonna turn this thing back. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead. This little lever here, it activates the carburetor, but we're not gonna learn about that just yet, but you will soon. So be patient, young grasshoppers. Our ignition to start up this is we turn back the key, and we're gonna go ahead and press this button down. And remember, we gotta start it up while it's in neutral. We never start up a tractor while it's in gear. I am definitely surprised. I am definitely surprised by that. This tractor also started up nice and easily. I'm gonna turn down the throttle. I am definitely surprised by that. All right, we're gonna check to see if this tractor will go forward and will go backwards. It's been a while, so we're gonna let this guy. Go ahead and warm up. But as we let this guy warm up, remember what the process that's going on here is that we allow this tractor to warm up for the purpose that the engine is not only warming up physically, but all the fuels that we need in order for our engine to function properly, like our coolant and our oil, right? It is completing its cycle all through the engine. So that way it's good to go, because if you don't allow it to complete its cycle, you can do a lot of damage onto the engine. Go ahead and turn down the throttle just a tiny bit. We're gonna get clear in just a moment. Here we go. I wonder if this guy's gonna work. I'm gonna put it in reverse, and I'm gonna release the clutch slowly, and we're gonna see if this guy will make it. And he did it! My goodness! All right. I'm gonna go ahead and put this tractor in forward. tractor for basic machinery, then I would give this one a pass, alright? I would give it a pass. That's some funny stuff. Holy cow, people. I actually did not expect that from this tractor. Usually, this old best here doesn't do so well on us, so I'm actually, it brings a tear to my eye, knowing that this old lady here, she's working fine. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test out if we put it in neutral, that it's not going to be in gear. So when I release the clutch, it shouldn't move forward or backwards, which it didn't. My goodness. What a successful day today, people. What a successful day. Well, that right there concludes our pre-op inspection test, people, that we performed on both the Ford tractor and our Kubota here. The main differences that you can see is that this Ford tractor here does not have a ROP bar equipped, so we wouldn't want to wear a seatbelt even if it did have one. There's a ROP bar on our tractor right over here. For our Kubota, our PTO is not guarded on our Ford tractor, but we do have a PTO guard on our Kubota tractor. But in terms of basic operations, when it comes to these tractors, I'd say I'm going to pass both of them. They passed the test. Good stuff. All right, that's all we have for today, people. And like and subscribe. That's all I got to say.